I'm here today with Mehmet Arda. He's affiliated with the Center of Economics and Foreign Policy Studies in Istanbul. Welcome to the German Development Institute.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Professor Arda, you're joining us today for a public lecture on Turkey's role in global governance within the framework of the Managing Global Governance Program.
Yes.
What are the intentions and interests behind Turkey's evolving role in global governance and regional governance?
Okay, well, that's a fairly big question. Now, let's start with the regional. I guess that's easier for the regional. I think Turkey wants to be a role model in the region. You know, with all the developments, with all the changes, especially in the neighborhood, in the Muslim world, Turkey has a long time wanted to be seen as the role model, and that role it is trying to play these days as well. So it is trying to be to show democracy and justice in the region. That is, I think, the role model aspiration that Turkey has. Is it doing it well or not? That's something else, but I think that's the aspiration, and it changes from day to day because the region is such a volatile situation. At times it is performing that role better. At times it is not. So that is whether it is doing it or not is a different question. But I think that's what it aspires to. Coming to the global level, there are two things. Well, the first, I think Turkey wants to be the champion of the poor and the marginalized countries in the world. And it has always wanted to be to show justice and have the moral upper hand, let us say, in global affairs. So in the UN, for instance, it always wants to be the voice of the countries which are not really heard too much. So that is a role it has been trying to play over the last, let us say, 10, 15 years. Before that, it was not being done so much. It was not really very powerful on the world stage, but now that is the role that I think Turkey, that's a purpose, not a role. That's a purpose that has assumed to be the voice of the forgotten, of the countries that are being treated unjustly. Mm-hmm. That is the purpose, and of course, it also wants to show that it is strong. It has strength in international fora. That is, of course, another thing, and that is, I guess, those are three purposes.
And in your opinion, where could European countries find common ground with Turkey in global governance and development cooperation, just the way you described Turkey trying to be a leader?
Well, of course, there are areas where it is easy to find common ground. That is, if you talk about security, if you talk about terrorism, those types of issues or if you want to talk about very technical issues, agricultural production, and those are types of areas where Turkey is very much Turkey has very much in common with the European approach. So there's a lot that they can do together. Where I think there's a big I wouldn't want to say a gap, but where there's potential for cooperation is to help Turkey think a little bit more about global goods. That is something which is missing in the Turkish approach to global governance. They think of global goods as peace and security. That's we just said it's a global good. But things like the environment, like climate change, those are missing from the point of view of the Turks. And secondly, the Turkish development assistance is mostly based on emergency, on humanitarian aid. And they turning that into more of a development aid is also something which I think would be an area where Turkey and Europe and the other, the development the countries which have more experience in development cooperation could do with Turkey, to turn it more into the global goods, apart from peace and security, other types of global goods.
Well, let's turn to the current situation in Turkey and the wave of protests we have seen. Will this rise of the middle class have an impact on the country's foreign policy?
Well, Turkey, the middle class has risen in Turkey. I mean, because it is there. There are two types of, I think there are two groups of middle class in Turkey. One is the established, the metropolitan, Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir middle class. That was there, has always been there. But secondly, over the last 10 years or so, you see the rise of the Anatolian middle class. Okay, so these, the Anatolian, the new middle class, is much more open to to Africa, for instance, to new areas, which has been sort of passed over by the traditional middle class. So that is the rise of the middle class. I think that will. That has already helped Turkey to turn towards a lot of the African countries, for instance, and the number of embassies has increased tremendously in Africa. And one of the reasons is that the Turkish, this second group of Turkish middle class, has links with those areas, and this bourgeoisie is doing business there. If you want to talk about the recent events in Istanbul, basically, I don't think it will have any impact on international relations. It is very much a domestic affair. The one thing is the Prime Minister has been portraying it as something that has been coming from the outside, and has been putting a lot of negative emphasis on that. That, I think, is a dangerous situation that should be avoided.
And we will talk about this maybe next time.
Okay, yes.
Professor Arda, thank you so much for joining us today here at the German Development Institute in Bonn.
And thank you very much for giving me this occasion. Thank you.